Hi there YouTube, I'm coming to you today to talk about a gun for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now I hear many of you out there saying, I know what you're talking about the superscope. While the superscope is a good gun and it has maximum compatibility, I'm not talking about that today. So you might be thinking I'll be talking about a different gun, possibly this one. Or this one. These are the Konami Justifiers. But no, I'm not talking about them either, even though they're kind of interesting in themselves. But no, we're not talking about them. We're talking about a third gun. And that gun is this one here. Not many people actually realize that this one exists. This one is, I don't even know what to call this one. It got this off the web the other day. It's the Shooter series, as you can see on the box. Came with Metal Combat. There's no... on the box, you can kind of see there's no maker on the box or anything like that. It's just standalone. The most information we've got is that it was made in Japan and Taiwan. Made in both places, okay. And printed in China. But this gun, unlike the Justifiers, works with most of the games on the Super Nintendo, other than the one that the Justifiers work with, Lethal Enforcers. This looks a little bit like the Player 2 gun for the Justifier, but it's actually a different colour. That's the Player 2 gun there, that's the pink one. This one's orange, and it's effectively another superscope. It acts like a superscope, although it doesn't have the receiver that you need to put on top of the television. This one plugs directly, this is the cord for it, plugs directly into the Super Nintendo. It's an interesting piece of kit there, isn't it? Now, a lot of people will be looking at this going, it looks like one of the 3DO guns, and it does. It looks remarkably like a 3DO gun, although if you look closely here, you can see that this part here is quite textured. Same as on the Justifiers. I'd almost say it's taken from the same mould. There are a few little differences though. I'll kind of point them out to you if you like. First of all, this one has two buttons on it. It's got a button on the side here and obviously another button on the side here. This one is the cursor button, or the equivalent of, bring it over, the equivalent of the cursor button, which is this one down here on the superscope. And the trigger is the equivalent of this top one up here. The start button is on the side here. That's the equivalent of the start button here. And I don't actually know if it's the equivalent or not, but this one up here, it says mortar. If that means anything to anyone, mortar or gun. I don't know if you can read that. It's probably quite badly out of focus, but it says it on the top here, mortar or gun. So yeah, but one of the other interesting things about it that a lot of people will notice straight away is that this possibly could be made by the same people that do the 3DO gun, because this is an adapter. And if you look at that, it looks like it could be a Genesis or a 3DO adapter plugged into a SNES adapter here. But yeah, it works fine. It's actually quite accurate. I was really surprised. It feels really well made, although I've read reports on the net that the trigger can break if you're not too careful with it. Whoops, sorry about that, bumping the camera. But I've had no problems, but I'm not a vicious gamer either. I just press it lightly, so I'll be very careful of that in the future. I'll show you some gameplay too if you like, just stand by. Well, here we are, I've got it plugged in and set up with Yoshi's Safari. Test it out, shall we? I'll have to apologise for the screen flicker. That's because it's an old CRT television. They're the only sort that will support the light guns, so I'll just set up my aim. It's going roughly where I want it to, pretty much where I want it to. I might have been a little bit off, but that's my own fault. Oh no, it's pretty accurate, cool. Now I've got this to work with every superscope game there is. It works with the Superscope 6, it works with Battle Clash, it works with Metal Combat. Obviously you see it here working with Yoshi's Safari, the Superscope 6 games, did I say that already? The only one I couldn't get it to work with though was Tin Star, which is a real shame because I would have loved to have played that game with a handgun. But other than that, it seems to work perfect. It's very accurate. You can hold it close to the screen so you can see where I'm shooting. Now some of you may notice that if you've got a keen eye that I actually got the sensor bar on top of the screen, but that's built into the arcade machine. It's not actually using it. I'll even cover it up for you. And you can see that it's shooting exactly where I want it to. I can even shoot Yoshi if I want. You don't like that. So yeah, there you go. The little orange light gun from an unknown company. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.